Monarchism is an ideology that, like the name suggests, is based around the rule of an individual monarch. Today, Semperadiuvans is back for another interview on the topic, this time with his own voice. What powers do you think should be granted to the monarch, and why?
All earthly power is vested in the monarch. A sensible monarch recognizes their own limitations and delegates this power accordingly. A stupid monarch who tries to do everything himself will soon find himself overthrown. An example is Tsar Nicholas II's decision to take direct control of the Russian army in World War One. He was completely incompetent at it and soon lost his throne.
What place do you think democracy has in your system, if any at all?
Democracy, by which I mean the power and representation of the common man, is important not only in keeping the monarchy in check, but letting the monarch know what the people actually want. Whilst democracy has a nasty tendency of developing dynasties of its own, it can be used to shake the ivory towers.
Do you believe in the divine right to rule?
I believe in the divine right of kings indeed, but, I must add, I believe also in the divine right of presidents and republics. An unusual position, I'm happy to admit, but the one I hold nonetheless.
Can you elaborate on the divine right of republics? How does this work?
In the same way that God elevates men to power by inheritance, so too does God raise others to power by the gun and by the ballot box. I may not support the patriots of the American Rebellion, but God in his infinite wisdom allowed them to win. If God did not want a president in power, he would not let such a president be in power. He is omnipotent after all.
In that case, why do you try to change things at all? How do you determine what's God's will and what needs to be changed?
In Christian thought, there is the idea that there are three wills held by God. There is his moral will, i.e. it's good to do this, it's bad to do that. There is his mysterious plan, by which he ordains the passage of history, and there is his will for your life individually, your destiny, so to speak. The first is revealed by commandments in the Bible, the second is hidden until it happens, since we do not see the future until it comes, and the third is complicated and not too relevant to this matter in my opinion. So the question comes, what to do when bad things happen, since the moral will does not want you to do bad things, but the plan has allowed these things to happen. Here we must remember the different relationships we have to these wills. We are obligated to follow the first, since it is a question of right and wrong. We cannot resist the second, since even our attempts at resistance would in fact simply be part of it. Resisting history is in itself just a part of history. And we spend our lives trying to work out if we're doing the third, or what on earth it even is. It's complicated, as I say. This means that when the first and second will appear to contradict, we are to follow the first. So since I believe that the Bible commands, or at least encourages, monarchy, monarchism is part of the first will. So even when republics emerge, as part of the second will, I am to stick to the cause of monarchism. To take a more explicit example, imagine the complete breakdown of society. In the aftermath, people turn barbaric and attack one another. In this case, the second will obviously includes the period of barbarism. However, the first will still compels me to be a good person. Does all this make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, although the anarchists would have to disagree with you about the barbarism. So in that case, what method would you use to achieve your ideal monarchy?
I believe in peaceful and gradual change, since regardless of monarchy or republic, I'm still a conservative.
Do you believe that what you see as the threat of republicanism will take hold in the UK within the next 10 years?
Not really. Whilst the British monarchy has its ups and downs, republicanism only ever seems to hold around 20% of the British population. That is not to say that 80% of the UK believes as I do, simply that most people like the vague idea of the monarchy sufficiently to not support abolishing it. That is why even Jeremy Corbyn, leader of the Labour Party, said that he would not pursue an abolition, despite his personal Republican views.
Conversely, do you think any Republican nations will adopt a monarch in the next 10 years?
I think there is a genuine possibility of this in Brazil. Whilst Jair Bolsonaro may himself have more love for plain authoritarian right politics, he has certainly flirted with monarchism, and his regime includes both open monarchists and even princes of the rightful imperial dynasty. In the restoration of Brazil's democracy, there was a referendum on the matter of whether to restore the monarchy as well. At the time this was outright rejected, with the vast majority preferring a presidential system. I do not believe that this can still be said to be the case, and monarchism is now very much a part of Brazilian political conversation, and will likely soon approach significant numbers to warrant another look at the question.
What are your thoughts on markets? Do you consider yourself a capitalist? And if so, how does this intertwine with the monarchy and state?
Within a nation, I am about as free market as it goes in the UK, so internationally I do support cutting ties with the Chinese economy. I think that a monarch should employ whichever system works best for their people, and for the Brits, that system is capitalism. It is a Scottish invention, of course.
Capitalism is a Scottish invention?
Yes, it is a product of the Scottish Enlightenment. Whilst, as I think you may guess, I reject the French Enlightenment, I can see some genuine virtue in the British and American branches of Enlightenment thought.
Can you talk about the differences and why you prefer the British and American Enlightenment over the French?
Whilst the French Enlightenment is centred on rejection of hierarchies and deconstruction of established concepts, the British and American Enlightenment simply address common sense approaches to man and his rights. The difference is between libertarianism in the Britanno-American side and socialism radicalism in the French side.
Do you think it's possible that a monarchical government could corrupt or damage those rights you were talking about?
Certainly, which is why a strong aristocracy and democracy must coexist with the monarchy. Any government left unchecked will eventually become tyrannical. Such is the allure of power to fallen men.
What do you see as the ideal religion?
The ideal religion? Christianity, of course.
Do you have a specific denomination?
That's where things get a bit messy. In American terms, I'm somewhere between the Presbyterian Church of America, the Anglican Church of North America, and the Southern Baptist Convention, all of which are conservative, but each of which represent quite distinct branches of Protestantism.
How did you determine that Christianity is the correct religion?
Well, I think I must begin by laying my cards on the table and admit that I was raised in the church. However, my approach to the faith now has far more to do with personal reading of apologetics materials than the soft teaching that characterizes Sunday school in the 21st century.
What do you consider the most compelling argument for God and Christianity, respectively?
For the existence of God in general, I find the cosmological arguments, particularly the Kalam variant, developed by Muslim thinkers and popularized by William Lane Craig, quite compelling. As for Christianity, whilst I'm sure we don't want to drag our dear viewers too far through all the details, I do find historical evidence for Jesus of Nazareth being alive, then dead, then alive once more, quite convincing. And if he truly was alive, then dead, then alive once more, I'm willing to trust him on spiritual matters.
What's your solution to declining religiosity in the Western world?
Whilst this may sound a bit silly, I'm not convinced that people are truly becoming less religious. I suspect that many people who had previously just called themselves Christians, etc., are just being more honest now that atheism faces less stigma.
Do you have any closing thoughts you'd like to mention?
Don't be a socialist, God save the Queen, and of course repent and be baptized to reconcile yourself to God.
Thank you for coming on. Are there any social medias you'd like people to follow?
Follow my Twitter at Semperadiuvans.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you want to see more interviews like this. And also leave a comment with your ideology and thoughts on the video. If you know any good channels or creators that you think might want to do an interview, please tweet me at IdeoLogsYT.